Hey guys, Furi back again. Today I want to talk about Furi. To start this off, let me preface this a little bit. So I was browsing through Reddit, right? So I was going to Reddit on a game subreddit page. So they were having this end of the year discussion. So they were discussing all sorts of game in 2016. You know, for the year end review. Some outlet already give their own game of the year award and stuff like that. It's like traditionally in gaming media, right? By the end of the year, they would give our game award, or they would recognize and look back at the year and try to see what kind of game is successful. And this is true in most industry, but it's very much prevalent in video game because, well, video game is very diverse and in terms of gameplay and from the story, and there's just so much in game, right? Narrative, gameplay, character design, visual effect, story, camera angle, everything is so different, like in video game when you compare it to any other medium, right? And so it's very much prevalent. Like, people want to know what do you think is the best game, and how that kind of also reflect a little bit about how your taste is in video game, and also kind of your personality as well, because like people who like Dark Souls obviously like challenge, right? And people who like games like No Man's Sky still, despite how much people were disappointed about that game, there are still people who enjoy No Man's Sky. Those are the type of people who might enjoy kind of like exploration game and stuff like that. It only makes sense that everyone is talking about this kind of stuff, the end of the year discussion, stuff like that. So I was going through the Reddit page, and so they have this different game, they were pointing out different game, and one game they really catch my attention, which is Furi. Furi, I mentioned it in my video as well, in my 20 of the best 2016 game, new IP game of 2016. I was outlining like, oh, these were some new IP game that we have never seen before that now exists within our industry, and I think these are awesome 20 game that come out this year that is completely new that I talk about in that video. One of the games that I talk about is Furi, and when I saw this on the page, I'm like, whoa, I haven't beat it, and that's something I mentioned in that last video as well, that I play through it a lot. I enjoy the game a lot, but I have not beat it because the game is really challenging and I put it off, right? Furi is probably the coolest game I played this year. It's definitely one of my favorites. It's free on PSN, so it's one of those games that like everyone play, and everyone seems to love. I didn't beat it yet. I think this is one of the games that I need to beat this year because I have so much fun with this game. It's just so simple. So after I saw it, I'm like, a lot of people were saying in the comment like the game is really fun, it's really good, they adore the game and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, let's go back and play it because I really like the game. So I actually spent today actually beating the game. And wow, man, wow, like, oh my god, like playing, holy shit, the ending is like, wow, which I'm going to spoil, by the way. I'm going to go into this and spoil everything within the game, so if you haven't played, I recommend you shut off the video right now, because I'm gonna spoil everything in this game. I'm just gonna say that outright, because wow, I can't talk about this game without spoiling it, right? Because like the most beautiful part of this game is in many ways spoiler, but okay, let's start with the non-spoiler stuff first. What the game is this kind of like hack and slash and blend with Bulletstorm, not Bulletstorm. Oh, I wish it was Bulletstorm the first one. Bullet hell type of game. So like imagine like games like Bullet Hell that you have to shoot out enemies and stuff like that, and like have those like twin stick shooter almost, and it mixed out with the whole hack and slash action game, very similar to, I don't know, Dark Souls, but like Dark Souls is very much third person action, right? But in this one it's more like top down, so you will be doing a lot of those hack and slash action. You might think of that like very similar to God of War as well. Actually the camera angle is like from God of War, like the fixed camera angle, and oh my god. And this is why I want to go into spoiler territory. So you know what, I'm going to go into spoiler territory right now, so switch off the video right now if you haven't watched it, because I'm going to mention something now that is going to be spoilery. I hope you play the game before you hear me say this, or you don't care about spoiler at all. So when I mentioned fixed camera, it reminded me that like the camera angle in this game is fixed, So it's very similar to how God of War does it, you know, so your character would move around, the camera would go like here, and the camera will be behind him, looking from like 50 miles away, or sometimes really up close, sometimes to see like different type of background, to kind of illustrate, have those like cinematic moment, right? And God of War does that in great effect, and this game does a lot of that in really cool way as well. And when you walk through that stuff, you know, there is going to be this rabbit dude. He's kind of like almost a reflection of your personality, according to my interpretation, which I don't know, like some people say he's real, some people say he's not real, some people is like saying like he's your self-conscious or some stuff like that, you know, kind of narrating the story and stuff like that.
We all have choices to make. We all have to decide what's worth fighting for.
But the game used that in great effect to kind of do its own storytelling, a new type of narration, really new way of storytelling, I would say. But it's just narration, but it's narration from a different character perspective that also reflect your own perspective as well, which is like interesting because you're not saying it. It's not like you narrating yourself. If you watch movie like, you know, on top of my head, I think of series like The Flash, right? Sometimes you would hear Barry Allen, you know, describing and narrating the story that is going down within the movie.
To understand what I'm about to tell you, you need to do something first. You need to believe in the impossible. Can you do that? Good. You see that red blur? That's me. That too. There I am again. My name is Barry Allen. I am the fastest man alive. My story is pretty simple. My whole life I've been running, usually from bullies. Sometimes I escaped, sometimes I did not.
We see this a lot in comic book, right? All the time, in fact. Character would narrating story and like something like that. But this is narration through different characters. And I thought that was cool, like using fixed camera to have those cinematic moments to allow for this narrating and cool storytelling experience, right? So that's cool. But what is really cool is at the end of the game, when you beat all the boss and you leave out that gate, right? And the entire game thus far is always fixed camera, and they use that to tell a story. So after you leave the jail, so the entire game you lock in this jail, you'll have to fight all these guardians to get out of the jail, right? So the entire time you're beating all these enemy and all these boss. So this game is a boss rush mode basically, because you're only fighting boss, you're not fighting generic dude, right? Even though the mechanic of the game would allow for that, but they say like, oh, we're gonna focus on the boss, which is really cool, right? By the way, like if you look at a lot of Suda 51 game, they have a lot of these same design as well. Like you look at No More Hero, Lollipop Chainsaw, Killer is Dead, right? All three of these games are awesome. Why is it awesome? Like if you think about those three games, the thing that they are awesome is because number one, Suda 51 design is really awesome, but it's also awesome because the boss fight are unique and interesting. And that's like usually the highlight of these three games, right? The Suda 51 hack and slash action game. The best part is the boss fight. So when you're going through the level and trying to fight all these enemies, usually it's really boring. Like Killer is Dead, I really noticed that the enemy design, you can really tell they're recycling a lot of enemy. And I remember playing through Killer is Dead and I thought, oh wow, these are really boring, you know, fighting generic enemy. But when I fight the boss, holy shit, is it fun, right? And like the same thing happened with No More Hero. You know, I played on Wii, so I'm using nunchuck to like hack and slash. It's fun, it's satisfying, it prolongs the game, it adds more time to the game, but it doesn't create those authentic or unique or fun experience. I mean, like when you only focus on the boss, and I think that's what Furi like focuses on, it just becomes more fun. And what it allows them to do is they can have like these long stretches of boss, right? The boss that have many phases. So you would go to one phase to another phase to another phase, and the boss would get gradually difficult. But like it's not always more difficult. I have noticed what they design is really well as well. Like the boss might have, you know, let's say 5 phases. The first phase might be certain play style. The second phase might be another play style of the boss, right? The way the boss, you know, telegraph its attack might be different, right? But then the third one or the fourth one, you know, might be the mixer of the two. So like you have all these difficult types of phase that you go through, right? But then after you go through them, all the phase gets mixed together, which make it even more harder, right? So it's a really cool design. They don't just go, okay, this is level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. It's just like level 1, level 2, level 1 plus 2, or level 3, and then level 3 plus 4, stuff like that, right? Let's just keep mixing and combining different abilities, and like they all never always acted the same way, right? So it's really cool. You go through all these boss, and to go back on my point early on when I talk about fixed camera, when you finally beat the game, you go through that gate and the camera changes. And this is the only part in the game where you get full control of the camera, like most third-person action games. Like you can actually move the camera around and the credits start lowering, and I'm like, this is genius because it does so many things. First, the fixed camera allow them to tell different story, like I talked about, allow them to have these narrating opportunities so they can have cool storytelling moments. But it also allowed them to tell a story as well, because the entire time you're locked inside this jail cell and you're guarded by these guardians. So throughout the game, you're fighting for your freedom, the freedom of the main character you're playing as. He is stuck here, he's in jail. And it makes sense in the story because your character camera are always fixed. You never get that freedom, right? You never get to look around the way you want it to, right? Like, because these environments are really awesome and you still kind of want to look around, but like the game doesn't allow you to do that. And like it's so rewarding when you finally beat the game and you can look around and like you're going into this huge almost Earth planet. It also does another thing, is like throughout the game there's this ongoing motif that you might not be the hero. You are actually killing and murdering all these guardians, and some of them even try to reason with you like, don't do this, we won't mistreat you anymore. As a prisoner, we will treat you with respect, we will give you your space. Don't go, killing all of us, don't go out of there. The life out there is not good, please don't go out, please don't go out. It gives you that sense of maybe you're not the best person, you're not the nicest person, so you go through all these guardians, killing all of them, right? So it really gives you a sense that you're laying waste to everything you go through, you're destroying everything, and by the time the game ends, when the credits start rolling, right, your characters, when he's slowly walking, like throughout the game he's slowly walking, and like if you look behind you, all the trees start dying and everything you walk past turn to black and darkness, and all the trees start wilting and dying. It's like the game is really good at visually telling a compelling story. I don't know, I just like it so much because this game is so simple. It's about just one guy, he's locked in a jail cell, and there's just a bunch of boss you have to fight against. You have to go through all of them and you have to question a lot of stuff about yourself, and the game is really difficult as well, and so you have to be really dedicated, and constantly you're getting this type of narrative from this mysterious guy that gives you a sense of mystery. So the game is really simple. It's just a simple journey and stories, and it worked. When the credit roll, I mean wow, I thought this was almost a perfect game, and I thought it was like, wow, okay, this is how this game ends, it's cool, right? And then the game doesn't end, which is like the best part. After the credit end, right, they let your character kind of run around a little bit. So if you decide to run around in the only interesting landmark that you can go to, so you decide to go to this one really cool landmark, right? What it does is it flips the story in even more. So your character then go into this like spaceship thingy, and he basically just fly out, and it's like, wait, what? So he basically leave the planet, and it kind of reveal that you are this kind of agent that was sent by like an alien race to destroy this Earth, and so you get caught and get locked up, and so there's this cyborg huge face that meet with you, and like, okay, and the game give you this one final decision whether you want to destroy the Earth or not. If you choose to destroy, the game end, right? And so it's like a bad ending to say. The world get destroyed, and the rapid looking dude, he would die. Basically he would be annihilated by this invasion. Basically, if you choose not to do that, then you go into the final battle, the one secret final last match that you can have a fight with this alien race that you're part of, I guess, and like if you beat it, then you finally save the fate of the earth. And so it's really cool how the story even flipped after the credit has ended. And by the way, that's one awesome credit, by the way. The credit saying is playing, the music is playing, you get full control of this, and you see the others, like I said, you know, you are laying waste by everything you walk past, reflecting your kind of like the character personalities and what thing you have done, the horror you have created, right? And it also misguided the player, making them think that the game is over. By the end of the game, there's also a special thanks as well. When I saw the special thank, I thought it was really cool. The developer put the name of someone like Hideki Kamiya, right? The guy who made the Devil May Cry game, Hideo Kojima, everyone know Kojima, Shinji Mikami, and basically all these awesome developers that most of us probably know about. But it's really cool that they point that out, and they're like, it just ends with such a class, right? Like the game really treat themselves with a degree of respect, and also treat the audience with degree of respect as well. By the way, the game is designed in such a way that it is really difficult, and you know, you have to overcome really this challenge to even get there. And even one of the characters is very notorious because he's the most difficult boss, right? And he would almost constantly saying this motivational quote, basically saying like you know, we are what we repeatedly doing, what we kind of like constantly doing, and like the perfection is not, you know, it's not perfect, it's just someone doing something over and over again and overcoming it, right? And he have all, you know, constant motif of line that he keep feeding you, and basically it can get really annoying as well, but like it's really cool. It's what keep me trying to beat him, because he's almost like training you to fight, and he's one of the one that really focus on the sword fencing. The game, I have to say, it have really two layer to it. Like in most fight, it is like a bullet hell experience, so you have to dodge a lot of attack, right? And it's really much a top-down experience. But when you get really close to killing an enemy, it would go in this like up close fencing attack almost, where you have to focus more on parrying and attacking rather than, you know, dodging and using your gun. So it's more about using your melee attack, right? And this final boss, it's not final, but like to me it's the most difficult fight in the game, and it's really the pinnacle challenge of the game. And if you can beat this boss, you can probably beat the game quite easily. The secret boss is a little difficult as well, but you know, you get the hang of it. You won't be having as much trouble as this boss, right? Like, because this boss is like the one that like is supposed to be the most difficult. It's the one that is also in the story the most difficult as well. That everyone kind of expect him to be the most difficult, and he is the most difficult. And it's almost always about like the challenge that he represents, and it's really cool. So yeah, man, it's cool game. I got it for free for PlayStation Plus. It's one of those free games, but like, wow, is it good? Is it like really fucking good? And you know, like, I think a lot of people put it off because they find it too difficult, and like especially the first few bosses definitely are. I recommend you go back and play it. And one thing I have to say is like the control is very much really simple as well. In a lot of games I have this problem when I leave it for too long, when I go back into the game and I forget all of the control, right? In this game it's very simple. Like X is to dodge, O is to parry, square is to attack, and like it's just, that's it. That's really simple. And you use R2 to hold down to use your like a charge shot, and like your right stick to use as like a normal shot. So it's really simple. Like by the time I go back into the game, it only took me like a couple tries to get back to the hang of thing, and you know, like face the boss that I have struggled with, and I overcome him after a few tries, and it's like, it's really satisfying. And the game, like, to me it's like a Dark Soul for me. It's like Dark Soul. I find interest in it. I like the game, especially the first one, and I love Bloodborne, and like, but sometimes it's like the way it's designed is, the game is very much like Dark Souls, is very medieval, right? Which is like cool, right? Medieval is pretty badass. You have all these knights and like characters, but it doesn't speak to me, right? Because I'm not in medieval age. I'm not the most fantasy person, right? I'm not always into fantasy lore and stuff like that. Even though I like things like Game of Thrones, I like things like Dark Souls, right? Not always my cup of tea, right? When it comes to this game, it worked for me. It really does. I mean, like, I don't know make it tick, but I think different people like different thing, and like the color and the aesthetic design of this game is also amazing. Someone mentioned that it's very similar to El Shaddai, which is a really obscure game that I have never heard of in a really long time. I heard about this in GameSpot have this podcast they call Lobbyist. Someone mentioned this, that it's really similar to El Shaddai. I'm like, wow, that's a game that I have never heard for a really long time.
I mean, like, aesthetically, it seems appealing to me. The Furi. I mean,
it looks cool.
It reminds me of El Shaddai, Ascension of the Metatron.
Yes.
Well, actually, it probably reminds me of that because you had told me like last week. And that was like the one thing I liked about El Shaddai. I didn't really like the combat, but I liked how weird and kind of stylized it was. So that alone is like the surface appeal is enough to maybe draw me in at the very least.
But yeah, aesthetically designed, it's like it's very bright, and it uses a lot of different color palette, and so it's really cool. And different level have different color palette as well. Like the level that I struggle on, and the one that everyone is going to struggle on, the one where I mentioned the boss is the most difficult, the level is pink. So like I remember playing through that level for so long, and like when I look away from it, when I look away from my screen, like other stuff started looking like different color. You know, like people talk about how when you stare at certain color for too long period of time, right? When you look at the different color, it would have different lens of color on it. That happened to me because the level was so pink. When I look away from it, the color of my surroundings started looking differently. So that got me worrying a little bit, but you know, it's alright. Like it's just normal stuff that happen when you stare at certain color for too long. But yeah, I thought that was really funny how I think that probably happened to other people as well, because that level, like I've been struggling on that boss for a really long time. Like it must have took me like 10 try before I finally beat him, and probably more than that actually. Like he's really tough. And the music design as well, something I want to mention outside of the aesthetic, the music, oh my god. They call it Outrun, which like I have never heard of before, but basically it's like a 80 synthesizes music with like neon element, like neon light I guess, with a noir element, which is like, how does that even make sense? I don't know, because neon is supposed to be black and white and neon is supposed to be super bright, so it's like a mixture of black and white with a super bright art style coming together to describe a music which is really heavily synthesized. Yeah. But like when you hear an example, it starts making more sense, right? People were giving example of Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon music, which I'm like, yeah, I love that. Drive music, which I'm like, I love that movie, I love that music as well. And like the whole, people were saying Los Angeles, the city as a whole is almost a representation of this genre of music, which I'm like, I love Los Angeles. That's like the one place that I want to go to. So yeah, it's like everything just tick for me. Like the music, the character design, I like the character design as well. I like the aesthetic design, I like the music, I like the difficulty as well, the challenge, the narrative, the storytelling, the slow pace of the character moving around, the way the character look, the way the character fight. Using sword fight is one of my most favorite thing to do in video games, to hack and slash enemy. The reason I enjoy Devil May Cry game. And the combat is simple, it's not reliant on combo, which I know a lot of people love combo system. It's not for me. For me, I just want this simple mechanic that just fucking work, right? Like when you parry an enemy, I want to feel like I timed that perfectly and I parry an enemy. And this game mechanically does that, aesthetically does that for me, and musically blow me away, right? Music is amazing in this game as well. Damn, like it have every element that I've ever want from a video game, and to me that is perfect. And when the game tell me that it has ended, it ends with a perfect class, and then it tell me that wait a minute, there is something more, and this one last fight that you have to take, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm in. So yeah, it's super fun, super awesome game, aesthetically cool, mechanically sound fucking amazing. Definitely one of my favorite games this year. Damn it, I'm just gonna say it, it's my favorite game of this year. Like outside of Dishonored 2, I don't think there's going to be any game this year that's going to beat that for me. And you know, I haven't played Dishonored 2, so Furi is easily my favorite game of this year. That's it. Like, I recommend you go back and look back at it. Like, it's one of the best in a very long time. I know a lot of people will put off by the difficulty, but stick with it. I try to endure through a lot of stuff, and you will find something special, hopefully. And if you don't, then leave it. I mean, it's okay. You don't have to always get to the end. Some people don't always have those satisfaction there for overcoming difficult fight, but this game is special enough for me that it does. It's a rare case that happened. It happened in Dark Souls 1, it happened in Bloodborne, it happened in this game, it happened in Hotline Miami for me. So all those games work for me, but not every game worked for me. Like, I remember playing through Dark Souls 2 and like I beat the boss, but I don't feel satisfying for beating the boss, even though it took me like 10 tries as well. But it's not fun to beat the boss. But in this game, it's like, it's fun. Like, I actually feel satisfied for beating the boss, like I do when I go to a loom in Hotline Miami, go to a level in Hotline Miami, killing all these huge mega beasts in Bloodborne, taking out the orange scene and smoke in Dark Souls. Like, the satisfaction I get is very similar across all these 4 games. That I think it put this game in a really special position in my heart. The design of the game, the music, the visual only added to that. It just ticked all the right box for me. It kicked me in the face with its aesthetic design. If I have to describe it in one word, I would say it's a cool game. It's like, it's cool. Go play it. See you guys next time. Bye bye.